See from the zoning map there, the property is split zone. So the front portion or the portion that's adjacent to Grand Lake is zoned R1, which is single unit dwelling. And the portion that's closer to Horns Settlement Road is zoned rural use. Just some aerial photography there so you can see where the property is in relation to other properties. So the applicant is requesting the redesignation and rezoning as they plan to build a private road into the property and then subdivide off that private road. So in the rural use zone, new roads are not permitted. So they need to do the redesignation and rezoning to enable the subdivision. So the applicant has plans to, initial plans are to subdivide to create Lot 1, as you can see on the image there. So Lot 1 is the area adjacent to Grand Lake, and then this will be retained as Lot 2. They don't need approval from council to do that. That can be done through the subdivision bylaw. If this application is approved, then they intend to subdivide the remaining land and build a private road to have access to that land. The applicant has suggested that an additional 8 lots could be created, although the land would need to be surveyed and meet requirements of the subdivision bylaw. When the land is surveyed and in accordance with the subdivision bylaw, the layout may differ from what we see here. So policy IM 19 of the municipal planning strategy states that council shall have regard to the adequacy of the physical site conditions for private on-site septic and water systems. Unless directed otherwise by council, staff will request the applicant submit a hydrogeological study to demonstrate that there are sufficient groundwater conditions to provide drinking water. And as this application requires an amendment to the municipal planning strategy, there is no right of appeal for this application. And we're at the initial stage of the application processing, and the next stage would be a public information meeting, and that's the recommendation is for approval to schedule a public information meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Rachel. Deputy Warden Dixon.
Thank you. Through the chair, just a few comments about this. I spoke to Mr. Gilby recently, and his intent is to get the land back into the family name and to subdivide the lots mainly for his kids and family use. So, and hearing that, and it's not going to be apartment buildings, I'm going to make the motion. Proceed with the motion. The Planning Advisory Committee recommends to council that council authorize staff to schedule a public information meeting to consider an application from Andrew and Julie Gilby to amend the MPS and the LUB by change the land use designation and zone for a portion of 809 Horn Summit Road, Enfield.
So moved to second. On before the motion. Councilor Garden-Cole.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so in this area, I think we knew that something like this would probably be coming forward with this piece of property just because of the size of it and the different aspects of it. In that area, there's Barrett's Road and Sheridan Brook and just different lanes that already have this type of parceled off lots going down towards the lake. I really don't see this as being any different than those, and so I'm in support of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Marion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question through to staff about, I know the plan is for 8 lots on the subdivide, but if you were to look at just out of curiosity, the maximum that could be put in that area, would it be 8 or would it be something greater? And do we have a sense of approximately how many lots could be created?
So that's quite hard to pinpoint details because as I mentioned, the land would need to be surveyed and need to comply with the subdivision bylaw and the standards for private roads. But just based solely alone on the size of the remaining land, it looks like you could get up to 15 lots. I think the reality is once you start laying out the lots, you put the new road in, it's probably going to be less than that. But 8 lots seems feasible. They would also need to get approval for an on-site septic system. And that will dictate potentially the size of the lots, but just purely based on the size of the area and the subdivision, the land use bylaw minimum lot size is 15 lots.
Great. That's it. Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you, Counselor. Seeing nobody left to speak, we'll go to the vote. And the motion is passed unanimously. Thank you, Rachel, for that report. Next item on the agenda is Plan 25-009, David Madu, McIntosh Road, Upper Nine Mile River, redesignation and rezoning. Final report. Rachel, you can begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we've seen this application before. This is the final report, but the land, as indicated before, is outlined on the zoning map. Down here, you can see it's agricultural reserve currently. And this is a layout planner submitted by the applicant, McIntosh Road and Highway 214, as indicated there. The application is to split zone the property and for a portion of the property to be rezoned to rural use and the remainder to be kept as agricultural reserve. And the applicant has had a agricultural impact study completed, and the study concluded that the property is not suitable for agricultural production, and rezoning it from agricultural reserve to support a single unit dwelling will not negatively impact other agricultural production in the area. The Agriculture Advisory Committee felt that the land not being farmed was not a valid reason for the rezoning, and that the majority of the corridor area has similar soil. They were recommending against the rezoning of the whole property. And at that meeting, they discussed split zoning and seemed that was generally acceptable to the committee, and that was why the applicant had decided to change their application to split zone the property. Public information meeting was held and questionnaires were sent out, and all of those 4 questionnaires that were returned have been scanned for Planning Advisory Committee to see, and there were no concerns or comments not in support of the application. And we are at the end of the processing. We're at the staff evaluation stage, and the public hearing has been scheduled for next week. And the recommendation is that Planning Advisory Committee recommend that Council give second reading and approval to the Municipal Planning Strategy and Land Use Bylaw amendments for a portion of 47 McIntosh Road. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Rachel. Warden Rolston.
Thank you. I'm a bit disappointed with the motion. I'm going to make or support the motion. But I've given quite a bit of thought to this one, and as one of the 2 people who were here when agricultural zoning was brought in the municipality, 2 councillors that were here anyway, we specifically included methodology for people to have their land changed from agricultural reserve to other zones, because we knew that not all agricultural land that was zoned that way was actually, we used ALIP. We knew it wasn't all going to be 100% correct. We knew that it all wasn't farmed. And one of the methodologies that was identified, and a very good one, was to pay an agrologist to do a study on the land, which this gentleman did. And yet, for whatever reason, the Agricultural Advisory Committee and kind of saw fit to overrule that study. And by that way of thinking and methodology, there's not any land in East Hants that couldn't be considered agricultural reserve. And we know that it's not going to be used for agriculture. And I just do not want to become hidebound in insisting that every piece of cleared land that's not right in the middle of the developed area of the corridor should be considered for agricultural reserve. This land is not used for agriculture. The owner does not want to use it for agriculture. He just wants to build a house. And I would have fully and 100% supported the rezoning of the entire parcel of land, because the owner of this land jumped through the hoops, hired an agrologist, had the study done, and still we added extra hoops on and said, well, maybe we can do part of it. So since he really wanted, I assume, to build his house, he changed his application to rezone only part of it, and I will support his ask in that so that he can get on. But I'm just going on record to say that I am personally disappointed with the way that this played out. So at this time, I will move that Planning Advisory recommend to Council that Council give second reading and approval to the MPS and LUB amendments by changing the land use designation and zone from agricultural reserve AR to rural use RU for a portion of 47 McIntosh Road, Upper 9 Mile River, as identified in the staff report dated April the 9th, 2026.
So moved in second. On before the motion. Counselor Garden Cole?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I agree with the warden on this one, and I think we've already, some of us at least, have already stated this before. At what point did this shift from, and how did it come about? Obviously, he wants to get this approved, he needs to get going on his project, but this didn't start out like this. Was this on recommendation, or at what point did he decide he had a better chance of getting this approved if it was compartmentalized into just partial rezoning? And that's directed to staff.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So when, after the Agricultural Advisory Committee, as we went through I sat down and met with the applicant after the Agricultural Advisory Committee. I outlined to him the recommendation that was coming from the Agricultural Advisory Committee. I did make it clear that council may decide that they would be okay with the rezoning of the whole property. I gave him all of that information, and he decided that he would amend his application to just have the property split zoned, as it would still allow him to have his dwelling on the property. So all of that information was given to the applicant, and I spent quite a bit of time talking through that with him, and he made that decision himself. I advised him, once he had made that decision, I advised him to go back and measure the area of land that he wished to have as part of that rezoning. He came back with those measurements, and the plan for the rezoning is based on those measurements that the applicant came back with.
Thanks. Thank you for that explanation. I just think it's unfortunate that that this has ended up this way. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Rhino.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Currently sitting on the Agricultural Committee, and I am not the chair, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn. But as Rachel stated, that was discussed, there was a discussion within the Agricultural Advisory Committee with regard to saving agricultural land, and also the rights of the property owner to do what they want, within reason with their property. So this came as, this is what the committee agreed with, and as Rachel stated, it was only a recommendation. It may not, she explained, the recommendation may not be taken, and he could proceed with his original application. But the owner did take this. So this is how it come, and there was no animosity. There was no cloud around this. This was the agricultural committee, came up with this, and it was kind of in between the rights of the property owner and the agricultural committee. And like I said, it was only a recommendation, and we didn't have to take it, and we could have went with the full thing, but the property owner chose to, so that's how it went. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Warden Rolston.
Thank you. And I understand that. And I have respect for the opinion of the Agricultural Advisory Committee. However, when you have a qualified agrologist and have met the terms that were set out as a method to support an application for rezoning, I do believe it is unfortunate that there seems to be some hideboundness to not changing any agricultural boundaries. And I just wonder, currently there is no agricultural zoning in the Hants North area. And at some time, should that change down the road, I just wonder how people who have lived there all their lives would feel to be told because their land is cleared, then it could be used for agriculture, so you can't do what you want with it. And therein lies the problem. I am perfectly okay with preserving agricultural land, but preserving cleared land because it might be able to be used for agricultural at some nebulous time in the future, I just still do not support that. And I have a question. I probably know the answer because we're at second reading. But if council so desired, is it too late to change this and rezone the whole property as the landowner originally applied, or because he changed his ask, do we have to continue down the road that we're on?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes. If council wanted to rezone the whole property, you would have to go back to first reading again.
Okay.
But I do have a suggestion, if this is something that council would like to do, is to continue with this application, but then when the plan review is done, that rezoning of the whole property could be considered through the plan review. So that's just another couple of years that the whole of that property could be rezoned to rural use.
Well, that's certainly, if, that was of interest to the owner, I'd certainly be supportive of that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Warden. Counselor McPhee, to the motion.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I'd just like to say I am the chair of the Agriculture Committee, and what Councillor Rhino stated was exactly how the Advisory Committee felt. It wasn't high-handedness. It wasn't any objection to the applicant building a house on the property. We wanted to accommodate him, and this was the accommodation that the advisory committee come up with, that since he could do this, that would be the best way. And part of it was people that sit on the agricultural committee who work in agriculture don't want to set a precedent of just rezoning a piece of agricultural land. We wanted to accommodate the owners, but it also was felt that we should protect the integrity of the agricultural reserve. And I realize that the rest of the municipality in the Warden's area and district and that don't have agricultural reserve, and they're resistant to having an agricultural reserve, and that's how it came down. But this land is agricultural reserve, and that was the feeling of the committee. And yeah, we didn't force anybody to take it. It seemed like a reasonable compromise, and that's what we voted on. Thank you, that's everything.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, it just brought up everything from the points, is that we don't have a standard that applies to everybody in the municipality. I understand the warden's comments about open land just being classified as agricultural in the previous planned area around the Hants North region and some of the other rural regions, but there are a lot of areas in that region that are intense agricultural operations that aren't zoned agriculture. They are receiving the agricultural tax credits and they aren't zoned agricultural. And so you have a two-tiered system now. And I just don't think that's fair. It was in line with the comments made,
I'll let him
even by
continue.
yourself, Counselor.
I'll let him continue, Counselor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this is where, when we have the discussion coming from the Agricultural Committee, right, I would like, where, you know, in this motion, the current process of our ability to appeal is based on science, right? A person came in, a specialist came in, gave a report that classified the land not as suitable, and the committee still chose to say, no, we don't want to let it go. And that's fine. That's their job, right? Their job is to provide a recommendation to council, and it's our job to make decisions, right? So I'm not forcing anything. But if that's the way the system's going to go, what parameters do we have for future applications just like this? If people come back with the same scientific evidence and people don't want to believe it. So it's, are we gonna go on gut feel or are we gonna go on based on facts? And this is where it really kind of bugs me, is that we're not going on facts, we're going on opinions. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Nobody left wishing to speak, we'll go to the vote. And the motion has passed unanimously. Thank you, Rachel. Next item on the agenda is Plan 25-010, Sunny Point Farms, Amendment to Land Use Bylaw and Municipal Planning Strategy. Leanne, you can begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is the final report coming forward from Philip Verreau of Sunny Point Farms, who had requested to amend the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw to allow for a reduced setback for intensive livestock operation uses in the rural use north zone, where the neighboring property is in a common ownership. So the current setback is 45 meters, and their original request was for 2 meters, or what's permitted under the National Building Code. So intensive livestock operations currently are only permitted in our rural zones, and the general provisions do outline the regulations. And then the agricultural reserve zone has more specific regulations for agricultural developments. So this is just what's currently in the bylaw, where it states a minimum setback of 45 meters from all lot lines, private roads or right-of-way easements. And then in the agricultural reserve, it goes further, saying that the setback may be reduced to 10 meters if the adjoining property is in a common ownership. That regulation does not apply in the rural use or rural use north zone. This is just the regulation in the municipal planning strategy for intensive livestock operations. That also required an amendment. So as per Council Motion C-2666, the proposed amendments were that the minimum setback requirement for an intensive livestock operation in the rural use north zone be permitted to be reduced to 2 meters where the adjacent property is in a common ownership, subject to the spatial separation requirements under the National Building Code, and that in no instance shall an intensive livestock operation be less than 45 meters from a property that is not commonly owned. So that was the motion made at the last council meeting. So these are just the amendments that are proposed as per that motion. So reduced to 2 meters where in a common ownership, and including that in no instance shall an intensive livestock operation be less than 45 meters from a property that's not commonly owned. And then the municipal planning strategy amendment is just to include the rural use north zone that may be have a reduced setback. For citizen engagement, there was a public information meeting held for this application. And as they are not site-specific amendments, questionnaires were not mailed out to residents. And there is a public hearing scheduled for this application for next week. So as per the council motion, the setbacks are proposed to be reduced to 2 meters where the adjacent property is in a common ownership, subject to the building code requirements, and that in no instance shall an intensive livestock operation be less than 45 meters from a property that is not commonly owned. And council's decision on these amendments are not appealable to the Nova Scotia Regulatory and Appeals Board. And the recommendation is that council give second reading and approve the amendments. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Leanne. Just a question, the conclusion had 45 meters, but I noticed back in one of the bullets, it had marked out the 45 and had a 46,
Through you, Mr. Chair, yeah, that was included in the original package of amendments.
okay. Motion in front of you, councilors? Councilor Rhino.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to staff. You mentioned, was asked by the chair why the 45 to 46, and you said it was in the original amendments. Can you give me the history on that? Because I'm not quite catching that, why that went from 45 to 46.
Through you, Mr. Chair, there was 2 different numbers in the bylaw, and it was just to make them consistent with each other. The agricultural zone had one number, 46, and the other one had 45. They were just an inconsistency, so to make them consistent.
Well, I still don't get a clear answer on that, why that went up another meter, right? Is there a reason?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the 46 meters originally came from the manure management guidelines. So in terms of where the 45 came from, I think that was just when the rural use north zone was created, it was just an error, and it was meant to be 46.
It was meant to be 46. But everybody was aware, is it now at 45, and now we're gonna, because it was an error, now we're gonna put it back? Is that gonna not cause a source of confusion? And will that affect any applications of anything that's in the queue now, or if there is any? And it'll probably, from what I presume will be an answer, I would say probably going forward is gonna be what I'm gonna hear, but I've got a question mark around this.
Anything else, Councilor?
No, not at this time.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. As Leanne said, we just discovered when we dug into this policy that there was some inconsistency between different zones and what the setback would be for intensive livestock, and it was just an opportunity to clean that up and standardize it for all intensive livestock operations. So that's why in some places it was 45, some 46, we just standardized it. And we standardized it on the 46 instead of the 45, because as she said, that was a recommendation from the manure management guidelines. So there was some science, I guess, behind the 46 as opposed to the 45.
So what, if I may?
Go ahead.
So then let's say over on the south side of the municipality, then it was 45 or 46, and over in the Hants North area, the laws would be 45? Is that what I'm hearing?
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Leanne.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's right.
I'm a little leery in the case that if you want a uniform, that setback of 46, could that lead to other things, being the same right across, and that would possibly open up a can of worms, and I really don't wanna go there. I mean, if the RU2 zone come in with 45, and it's different from the agricultural zone over here, why not leave it at 45? I just, leave it. That's the way it, that's the way I see it.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I mean, council could leave that out of the package of amendments. You can always drop something, before you give it second reading. You don't have to go through with that portion of the amendments. But when we discussed this, it was, it's something we had flagged for the plan review, that there was an issue here. And said, well, if we're gonna open up this policy anyway, why not bring the consistency now? So that's why it was put in there. But as I said, if PAC wants to recommend the package without that, you can do so, and we can have a further discussion at the plan review.
Well, I would recommend that we leave that at 45. That would be mine, and I don't know how, would I create a motion to leave that, or or an amendment to, the motion has been made, obviously, but, or do we make a motion to change that now, and
Motion
then,
hasn't made yet.
then with the change then?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, I think that would be the cleanest way to do it, to just amend this motion to leave out the change from 45 to 46 in the RU2, I believe. Is that the only zone, Leanne? Yeah.
Where's the 45 to 46?
Okay, I'm not gonna make the motion this time, because I'd like to hear what, other council members have to say before that's made.
Thank you, Counselor. Warden Rolston.
Thank you. But I saw that in the report as well, but this motion says 45.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that was the amended motion from last council that was added on. The bottom part, no instance.
So we're not talking about 46 anyway, we're talking about 45. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the 45 is what's in the general provisions right now for intensive livestock operation, that's what's proposed to be changed to 46.
Then why does this say 45, this motion?
That's what the motion for the amended, that they added on last council meeting was 45.
So if we pass this motion, we're not changing anything to 46 because it says 45. Is that not correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the second part of the motion would read as 45, yep.
So, okay, someone has to explain to me where the 46 is coming into this now, because the motion to me clearly reads 45. So why would we need a motion to change it from 46 to 45 when this motion already sets it at 45? And I know we're only talking about a meter, but we might as well get it right now.
So Leanne, can you go back to the amendment where we make the change? Yeah. So maybe we missed that in that motion from council, that it basically wipes that out. Like, we wouldn't be able to make that change now if you want, in no instance, it to be less than 45.
So we don't need an amendment. If we make the recommended motion, that will change that 46 back to 45.
Well, actually, now that I think about it, it doesn't, because no less than 45. 46 is no less than, it's more than. So I guess in no other circumstances, it would be 45, but it is messy, I agree.
Okay, well, let me give it a shot. Could we go back to the proposed motion? Bear with me. Just let me see, maybe if I get it up on my screen, the other part at the same time, it'll make it a little cleaner. All right. I move the Planning Advisory Committee recommends to council that council give second reading and approval to amend the municipal planning strategy and land use bylaw to reduce the minimum setback requirement for intensive livestock operations in the rural use north zone to 2 meters, subject to building code requirements where the neighboring property is commonly owned, and that in no instance shall an intensive livestock operation be less than 45 meters from a property that is not commonly owned, and that in section 5.2.3 of the report, item A, that the minimum setback distance remain at 45 meters.
Council Musa to the amendment?
No amendment.
Just an
I included-
addition?
I just made it in the motion.
Everybody understands the addition to the motion? Yeah, I know. Council Musa?
Leanne, can you please go back to the, yeah, here. So now what we're doing is changing the setback if the whole process was to change the setback if the property is commonly owned, right? So if we go with 45 instead of 46, is that proper? Because we're going against our bylaw, like against our, the one we originally have, 46. Because we didn't work on changing the 46 to 45, so we'll be against if somebody with non-common ownership, and he can appeal that and he will win, because that should be 46. And we didn't work on changing 46 to 45. We just throw it on a fly, and I don't think that's right.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the 45 is what's in there right now.
It said in a rural use north, RU2 zone, the 46 minimum setback may be reduced to 2 meters. So it's 46 or 45?
No, that's a draft policy. That's a draft reg.
So that's not what in our bylaw?
No.
So that's a mistake, the 46 should be 45 here? Or,
It was actually the other way around, but now council wants to standardize it at 45, which is fine.
yeah, I know, but is it okay, the process is okay to go like that? Like, if it is 46 and we didn't work, we didn't do the first reading or second reading to change it from 46 to 45, we just put 45 there.
Yeah, that's fine because it's less restrictive. So you can go back. Go to the motion again, Leanne. Yeah, it actually, it doesn't even refer to 45 or 46, just says it's going to be reduced to 2 meters, so that's fine. So we'll, with a addition that the ward made to that motion, we will just change that 46 to 45 and leave it at that. And I think that's fine. Like, you're not so constrained going from first reading to second reading that you can't reduce a requirement. You can't increase a requirement, but you could reduce.
Oh, you could read,
Yeah.
okay. As long as it's okay, the process is
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
so.
when it's new, I mean, if it was an existing policy, that would be different.
Okay.
Thank you, Counselor. Warden Wilson?
Thank you. Yeah, I was just going to comment that this, and just for clarification, we're not changing it from 46 to 45. We're just leaving it at 45 instead of changing it to 46. So we're just leaving it the way it is and has been, just for clarity. The report sought to move it to 46, and this leaves it at 45 and cleans it all up so that it reads 45 everywhere there. Thank you.
Thank you, Warden. Nobody left to speak. We'll go to the vote with the addition. And the motion is passed 11 to 1 with Councilor Perry voting nay. Thank you, Leanne, for that report. Last item on the agenda for planning is affordable housing, fee and tax exemption. That's by the director. You can begin, John, when you're
Great.
ready.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So the municipalities received 2 requests from developers or potential developers, I guess, of affordable housing, both the Riverview United Church and the Nova Scotia Provincial Housing Agency, although it's actually Build Nova Scotia that's, going through the process with us, but the Provincial Housing Agency will be the owner and operator of the property. These organizations are requesting both a tax exemption and fee waiver, and the requests are being made to enable more below-market rental housing to be built in East Hants. So first of all, Riverview, in an effort to mitigate the impacts of the ongoing housing crisis, the trustees are exploring options to build an affordable housing development with goals that are 20% lower than current market rents. And there's currently a home on the property behind the church that's being rented out. Their intent would be, if approved, they would remove that building and replace it with an 8-unit apartment building. And they're looking to create a separate entity to operate the development while forecasting a minimal profit. The intent would be, if there is any profit, to donate those proceeds to local charities. And based on similar buildings, and both the building that the province is proposing in Shubenacadie and this one in Elmsford are very similar, so these numbers work for both, I think. The assessment would be about $1 million, and so the property taxes would normally be about $12,390, and that includes the $1,840 for the waste management fee as well. And so that's what an exemption, a full 100% exemption would cost the municipality, or not from current revenue, but it would be lost future revenue. And with respect to fees, so the housing agency, again, intends to build an 8-unit apartment building in Shubenacadie that will be maintained as public housing, so it'd certainly be affordable. And public housing is usually considered deeply affordable. And they're requesting that all associated municipal fees be waived. So this is just a breakdown of what those fees would look like, and the total is $72,582. But the vast majority of that is infrastructure charges, over $70,000. The actual building and development permit fees are just $1,732. So East Hants, as you know, adopted a housing strategy last fall, and the strategy is intended to both better understand the housing situation in East Hants and provide recommendations to enable additional housing, particular affordable housing, to be developed. And one note from the strategy is that East Hants is currently underserved with below-market housing from both the public sector and the nonprofit sector. And the housing strategy did identify a project to explore the creation of a tax relief program for nonprofit organizations that do provide housing. So as a result of these requests from both Riverview and the province, they're both, we think, timely and consistent with your housing strategy. And that priority 6.3.1, which is to take action to create a tax relief program for nonprofit organizations that provide housing in East Hants. And that's just a clip from your housing strategy itself, that action. Currently, we have bylaw F400, and as a nonprofit group, the trustees are looking to use that bylaw for an exemption from property taxes. F400 is created under the provisions of Section 71 of the MGA, which permits a council to exempt a property from taxes in a similar manner as noted in the bylaw. The council may by policy exempt from taxation to the extent and under the conditions set out in the policy, property of a nonprofit, community, charitable, fraternal, educational, recreational, religious, cultural, or sporting organization if in the opinion of council, the organization provides a service that might otherwise be the responsibility of council. It should be noted that low-income housing provided by the province is not exempt from the Assessment Act, which normally we think of all provincial properties be exempt from municipal taxation, but if it's not used for provincial business, but it's used for housing, then it's not exempt. Kind of a little quirk there. When we look at what others do, other municipalities do have programs like this. So both CBRM and Lunenburg have a tax program where as you can see, it's sort of over 10 years, it reduces from a 90% credit down to 30 in the last year, and then it disappears. So basically a disappearing tax incentive. And over that time, the builder or developer must agree to maintain the units as affordable for the full 10-year period. And the credit is prorated to the area of the building dedicated to affordable housing. So if only half the building is affordable housing, then it's prorated accordingly. And again, the basis for that comes from the MGA. The municipality may provide a direct financial assistance to business for the purpose of increasing the availability of affordable housing in the municipality. HRM also has a program for nonprofit and charitable organizations similar to our F400. And in that case, they offer a tax relief grant, 50% of the taxes levied with a maximum payable per property of $25,000. And properties are eligible for the cap assessment program receive a reduction equivalent to 25%. And recipients must apply each year to maintain the eligibility to receive the credit. So unlike the first two municipalities, this one is just fixed at 50%, but it doesn't go away. It seems like you can apply for it every year. Another couple of differences, in the case of at least CBRM, Jeff reached out to them and found out that they would, although I don't think they've done so far, they would accept the province as a nonprofit and reduce their taxes as well, whereas HRM said they wouldn't. So, every municipality does this a little bit different. So staff put together a couple of alternatives, and the first one is the recommended alternative, and that would be to develop a policy that exempt new affordable housing developments from 50% of applicable property taxes for 10 years, and exempt new affordable housing developments from 100% of building and development fees, but not including infrastructure charges. So this, we felt was a little more straightforward and easier to administer, just that it's there for 10 years, but it's 50% in those 10 years. And we think this approach would incentivize affordable housing while putting a sunset on the financial impact to the municipality. And it's also consistent with your housing strategy. And although there's no definition yet developed by staff, typically for a project to be considered affordable, again, like the United or the Riverview United Church indicated, rents would have to be 20% below market. And staff are not proposing to include infrastructure charges in the fee reduction. And the reason for that is the direct link between increasing system capacity in our water and sewer systems and the ability to accept more housing, affordable or otherwise. So that's why it was left out. The alternative two would simply be to direct us to create a program and vary some of these parameters. So whether you want more or less than 50%, higher or lower time frame than 10 years, or whether you want a cascading reduction the way CBRM does it, so 90% year one and 30 in year 10. And another option to consider, I guess, would be if you're concerned about the cost of infrastructure charges for these projects, you could provide a general government grant to cover all or a portion of those infrastructure charges in addition to the fee and tax waiver. And alternative three would simply be to not implement a policy and encourage, I guess, developers to use other funding mechanisms, for example, CMHC. But the recommended approach is that alternative one, which is to exempt new affordable housing developments from 50% of applicable property taxes for 10 years, and exempt new affordable housing developments from 100% of building and development fees, not including infrastructure charges. And there's a motion to that effect. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, John. Councilor Garden-Cole?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have read and reread this one and put a lot of thought on it. Because staff is right. This is a timely, application coming from two kind of different entities looking for tax breaks and whatnot. So when it comes to the church one, I mean, when I think of the F400, I think of more not-for-profit buildings and operations that they are running. I don't think so much as them building an apartment and including that under the same umbrella. So I'm struggling with that one. And 20% is definitely not considered deeply affordable. It just meets the minimum to be considered affordable housing. When they talk about any profits would be, given back through charitable donations. And I'm thinking, okay, well, those profits could actually be paying the taxes on the building if they're going to be making profits. So I'm just kind of struggling a little bit with the balance of where we should land here with these. With the other one, so if something they talk about, for 10 years, and possibly, so these developments could maybe end up not being affordable developments anymore. They could be sold, right? And then they end up that they are market pricing down the road. I guess by prorating it or, people applying, saying Halifax applying every year, they are taking care of that issue should it arise. I guess for me, I would be willing to support somewhere in the middle. So that's kind of a melding of the two different approaches where 50% is like the HRM one, where it's 50%. Up to 10 years is kind of taking that from the Cape Breton Regional. Is that what you're proposing?
Yes, yeah.
And then it would go to just standard after that. Okay, I did make some notes on this. Okay, I'd like to hear what other counselors have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I personally don't see these two as similar at all, because government housing, their definition of affordable housing is 30% of a household's income before tax, which is a lot more reduced than 20% off of a market rate, when you look at that. So for me, it comes down to, I don't know if I imagine the wastewater and water bills would be included on these regardless of what goes on here?
Yes, there's no recommendation to waive the water bill.
Because for me, I'm looking at like some fixed costs, right? Like the waste management fee, policing and fire. Those are services that are required by everybody, no matter where they live, and every building owner should be paying for those costs for the buildings that they own. That to me is something that I think we should be looking at to include in any charges regardless of what we do. And then I would like to see for discussion later, I even would think possibly our educational transfer that we have to make on our assessments going forward, because a lot of these places are gonna have children that are gonna be attending school. And there's a lot of people out there that are either have no children or have their children already gone. Like, we hear it all the time from everybody about paying for education when they have no kids or never had kids. So that's one of the things. But those are the things, the waste management fee, the policing and fire, and possibly education that I think definitely we should be looking at to recoup some of those costs. At what rate we recoup that, maybe it's at half the rate for certain buildings. But when I look at the Riverview one, are all the units in it going to be considered?
Jeff was the one that talked to them, I believe. Yeah,
Yes.
That would be.
Yeah. So I kind of got that from the previous reports that the whole
Yeah,
building was
yeah.
going to be that way. But even at 20% of market rate, it might be almost a cost, because the cost of building things have gone up so much. So it's like, there's a lot of variables that we don't know, right? Like, obviously at market rate, people are making a profit because that's business, right? You're not gonna build something and lose money on it. Is the profit margin 20%? Is the profit margin 30%? Is it 40%? It'd be interesting to get some data to kind of know what the current rate of profit is on new buildings compared to the cost, and I believe that data should be out there somewhere, because that would really help us align with what's going on, because I don't want to make it unaffordable for them through taxation to not move forward with offering an alternative housing in any area. That's because it's needed in all areas, but I just want to make sure that we have the apples to apples. Like with the province, it's pretty straightforward. They have a formula that they charge whoever's in a unit 30% of their before tax income. So that there, depending upon how little or how much you make, it's all the same relative to that. So, like I said, I would like to see, and I definitely hear from other counselors, but for me, for both buildings, I could see waiving certain things, but I do believe the waste, policing, and fire are essential because multi-unit buildings bring multi-unit problems, which bring sometimes an increased rate of calls, whether it be for medical, whether it be for anything else as well. So I just think those services need to, they're raising rates throughout the whole corridor, 2 cents, it seems like every year, going to some fire departments. So it's, that's a lot of tax burden on the general public, and I believe it has to be shared equally. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Tingley?
Thank you, Chair. I agree with the other councillors. No problem with the province's request, and I think Riverview means very well. But my question to staff is, how would you even know if you're getting 20% below the market value? Who measures and polices this?
Yeah. Through you, Mr. Chair, I mean, again, what we're doing here today is trying to figure out what direction council wants to go. So there's no program or monitoring system put in place, but that would be developed as part of a policy, I guess, about how we're going to establish that 20% and how we're going to monitor it.
Okay. So this is to have a policy that will allow anybody to come in and do this. Like I say, the province seems pretty straightforward, but to allow others to be able to come in and do this, I'd like to see how we're going to measure that and police it before I'd make that policy.
Well, through you, Mr. Chair, I guess another option, it wasn't one of the options we listed, but you could also limit it to not private developers, but just limit it to nonprofit organizations and the provincial government. So, if a for-profit decided to do some portion of their building that was affordable housing, you could sort of exclude them, I guess, for whatever reason, but, really up to council how you want to structure this.
Okay. Thank you. I'll just listen to what everybody else has to say.
Thank you, Councillor. Warden Rolston?
Thank you. Well, similar to others who have spoken, I see these two requests as being completely different. The province is providing subsidized housing to allow people to afford to have a home. And it's not based on some figure that we have to figure out, like, how do we figure out what is market? You go all over this municipality, what is market rent these days? It varies. And, I know we have really, really good staff, but I don't think they've got time to be chasing around the municipality and trying to compile averages of market rent every year and then double check on developers to see if they're charging 20% of that. And I'll go so far as to say that even in the area where I live, what's passing for rent these days for homes is not affordable. And it's not affordable if you take 20% off of it. 20% less than market is not affordable for many people. And I understand that we have costs too, but so does, there are costs for everyone. And if we want to be a partner with the province or the federal government or whoever at any given time in providing affordable housing for residents in our municipality who need it, then there will be some cost to us by foregoing things. I have no problem with the provincial part of it. I can't support the other, even at this stage, because I don't know what we think market value is. And therefore, I don't know what 20% of market value is, and I don't know if 20% is enough. And I don't see it as reasonable to offer any developer the same perks to build 20% off of market housing as we would allow the province to do subsidized housing. It just doesn't seem reasonable to me. If we have a not-for-profit come forward and offer subsidized housing based on income, similar to what the province does, sure, you've probably got me. But for 20% off market, that doesn't mean anything to me. I'm sorry, because at any given time, you don't know what market is. And in an entirely other question here, the province is building 8 units. What happened to our 16? I know it was up to 16, but I was hearing 16, I'm sure.
Not sure.
And now all of a sudden, are they only building 8? Or is this a first
That may
stab at
be
it?
wrong. I got 8 units from somewhere, but maybe the existing one, I'm not sure. Yeah.
So
so-
anyway, there's just too much unknown here. I am fine with supporting the provincial subsidized housing for low-income residents in any way that we can do it affordably. I will support that 100%. But to give those same forgivenesses to developers who are only going to provide 20% off of market doesn't seem reasonable to me. Thank you.
Mr. Chair. So I think in my discussions with providers of or of affordable housing, the province seems to be moving in the direction that they want less public housing, more nonprofit housing. So I think going forward, if you don't have a program that includes at least the nonprofits that provide affordable housing, I think basically that's where the best bang for your buck might be. So if you're uncomfortable with the 20% or, the what happens after 10 years, those kind of questions, I would encourage you, I guess, to send it back to us to go get more information on those things as opposed to just dropping that portion of a potential policy and just leaving it with the province. I still think there's benefit with the province because, you would say, well, it's a province. They're responsible for it and they should do it. But if we're able to offer an incentive like this, they're always looking for ways to maximize their projects. So I think it is an incentive for them too. But to be honest, I'd hate to see us drop the nonprofit portion from this as well.
Gordon?
And I have no problem with sending it back for a better look. I don't know how soon the province is looking for an answer. I'd kind of like to deal with that as soon as we could. And I hear you when you say the province is moving away from public housing, but I'm not sure they're not turning back towards it a little more, because we haven't had any new public housing anywhere for a number of years, and just within the last year, all of a sudden, they're building public housing again. So the only true affordable housing for low-income people is subsidized housing in today's world. It's not 20% off of market value rent. It's subsidized housing based on their income, and that is just the facts of the matter. So whatever has to be done to proceed with allowing the province to get, and I'd like to get some clarification on how many units, but to get that figured out without holding, I don't know when they want to break ground or anything, but there were numerous municipalities involved, so I don't want to hold them up from starting their project here, and I'm quite happy to send the other part of it back, and I would certainly, be probably lots of discussion on whether it's not-for-profits or all developers or how it would work for all of them, but those would be my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Warden. Councilor Musa?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Same with my other fellow councilors. Like with the province, I'm okay, but for the nonprofit, like how about if we do something similar to Cape Breton, like 90%, and work with them on the 20% be more, and probably every year when their taxes go up, they could put the rent a little bit up. This way they don't take from people that need it now and give it to charities. That doesn't make any sense to me. Because as a nonprofit, you shouldn't be making a profit. So that profit should go to the people that pay in it, like give them more discount on the first year with the 90% taxes back, like free taxes, whatever you want to call it. And next year, it's going to be 80%, so they could raise the rent up 1% or 2% or something like that. So I think that will work with them, but to go 20% below market, there's so many unknown there, and I don't see any benefit for the people, like for the people that need it, that are gonna pay for it. So I think the gradually one is fine. I'm fine with it. If there's a big reduction in rent at first, then we'll go up every year. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Rhino.
Thank you. This has ensued a lot of good discussion here today, and I appreciate everybody's input into it, and it just brings up more things all the time with me. You know, I'm hearing the province is good, yeah, we'll support that. Well, I guess I'm gonna ask the question then. There's a number of seniors, provincial seniors residents are in the Hants North area and in the municipality. And there, I know of 2 housing units in not too far from where I live. I guess my question from them, was there any fees at the time when any of those were built, waived for those construction?
Those would have all been before my time. I remember when the Enfield one was expanded, they paid fees, so
They
we
paid
didn't
fees.
waive them at that time.
And I like the discussion, but I'm hearing a lot, I'm okay with the province. Well, I'm gonna say I'm not okay with the province doing this. This would start to me, I look at it as more or less a download. They're trying to download as much as they can. I understand there's a need for affordable housing. I can understand that. But for what the province has done in other issues of government so far, now they're looking for, oh, by the way, can you drop all these fees? So I don't think that's right. To me, I look at it as a download, and a download which 72,582, if I'm reading this correct, on the total fees would be borne by the taxpayers across the municipality. Again, another download to the people. I think if, to me, the province should be paying these fees and not spreading this cost and making it across the province and making it even more expensive. So on the nonprofit one, I think there's gotta be a lot more discussion with regard to that. I agree with what a lot of people have said here. You know, how can you establish 20%? And when you're talking about nonprofit, somebody brought it up here, you know, nonprofit is nonprofit. You don't make a profit, so you wouldn't be able to put that profit back anywhere. So nonprofit is nonprofit. So that's my feelings right now. I will not support, helping the provincial government on this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Garden-Cole.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So a couple of things. First of all, I think that the province, any dealings that we have in applications for the province for subsidized housing or deeply affordable housing, we should consider totally separate from anything else. It should have its own category. I mean, housing in this day and age is, you know, a number one priority. I do believe in offering something, but I can't decide right now what it would be, and that's to the province. I want to show that we are dedicated to applying, you know, offering affordable housing to our residents through the province or whoever that may be, but it just needs to be hashed out what that would look like. As far as stepping away from the province and going to, you know, not-for-profit or someone who is, you know, going to offer maybe 20% off rent. I know in Enfield, you can get I'll throw a number out there for simplicity's sake, a 1,200 square foot 2-bedroom apartment at one end of Enfield for $400 less than you can get the exact same one at the other end of Enfield. So how we would ever determine what 20% less than market rate would be unfortunately for someone else to determine. And yeah, I would like a not-for-profit to come and build housing in our municipality as well. So I do want to offer some incentives, but that would have to be determined in detail, and that isn't gonna happen today, I don't think. But the province one is more, something that we need to figure that one out sooner rather than later. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just checking with staff, would now be a good time to make a motion to split the nonprofit developer thing? So I'm gonna move that incentives, or what are we calling this? Sorry, my brain I just had a brain fart. But the whole big thing for me was just about splitting provincial tenders for subsidized housing from affordable housing. I want them split, nonprofit or profit developer, like, it doesn't matter who is doing it. They're two separate things. So okay, I'm gonna make the motion. My motion is I move that all subsidized housing applications be dealt with separately from those that are nonprofit or developer, low-income related properties. Does that make sense?
You wanna put the word provincial in there?
Well, if it's subsidized, whether it's, cause I'm thinking along this, there are some nonprofits out there who will do that. Like, I'm thinking, I know in some cases, in other parts, when I lived in New Brunswick, there was an organization very similar to CCOA that had a residence for their workers, and that was subsidized housing. They did not pay a market value, they paid so much based upon what they earned, right? So if a nonprofit came forward with a subsidized plan, it would be completely different than a affordable plan. So I kind of don't wanna have another limbo. If we just say if there's subsidized housing, be the province or a private entity, how would you prefer to do that? I'll defer to the CAO.
Go ahead, CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So at this point, this would be just direction to how we move forward in creating our policy.
Yes,
It's not like one versus the other.
no, they're just separate policies.
There's clearly two ways that council is looking at this, one for provincial, one for nonprofit. I think the splitting the two would be fine. We've said, make it amendments to bylaw F400. The more that we sort of hear discussion, and this wasn't an easy topic to bring here. Like, we had a lot of really in-depth conversations around different options and with finance and planning and the philosophical, what does your housing strategy really speak to as far as, if you say you want to incentivize low income or subsidized housing, then we assume you do. So this wasn't an easy sort of place to start, but it is only a place to start.
Absolutely.
So for the province, I think, so we can take this motion and split the two when we bring it back from a policy perspective to have clear definitions between provincial and what I'm hearing is just not for profit exemptions, not for the commercial developers. To define market housing and what 20% below market housing is, there are people that do that for a living who research what market values are in each of the different geographical regions across, not the entire country, but there is data for Nova Scotia. So we can have a metric in our policy that says what market value is, and that gets updated every year, and sort of check and balance against those. We do a check and balance on the bylaw F400 properties every year anyway. So we can add that type of rigor to your policy. That's not an issue. What we really need to know today is, do you favor, obviously you favor, if this motion passes, splitting the two, which seems to be the conversation. And then the next question is, what do you favor exempting? So is it this? This was sort of where we landed as the easy to administer, cover some of your costs, get it done. But there, if you like the 90% or 10% up to 90%, we can do that as well. It's just a little more challenging to maneuver. But I think what you need to do is separate yourself from the applications or the requests that have generated this report, because they are just an example of what can happen. Once you set this policy, it'll be applied across the board without other organizations coming back to council. I guess they'd have to come back to council to get put into the bylaw, but you would have your parameters very well established to make decisions easy for council later on.
Because,
So this motion is just giving us direction to split the two
to split the two,
topics.
because in both cases, I don't believe anybody on council doesn't want to have form partnerships to bring more affordable or housing to our region. And to be attractive for these nonprofits and even the province to invest, we have to have something. And that's what my motion is just to split the two of them into two separate things, and they'll come back as two separate parts of a bylaw. Whether we need a new bylaw or not, I don't know if it really fits under F400. That will be for the policy people to determine, but I think it might be a new bylaw when it comes to housing versus the F400.
Through you, Mr. Chair, so when it comes back, is this formula that we laid out acceptable, or do you want to look at something else?
I just want to split them. I believe there needs to be more discussion on the formula.
And
from
I think,
everybody.
through you, Mr. Chair, from a provincial, to the warden's point, the province sort of is looking to do this now. This committee could make a recommendation to council that you waive the building permit fees as a starting point for that project. I'm not saying right now, but at some point, if you wanted to move it along. Otherwise, you can just wait until it comes back and set your policy, and if they've paid, we can reimburse them.
Because for me, when it comes to the province or anybody, the provincial wants provincial money for transfers for things, well, they should pay for the transfers on their own buildings, right? Because they're not gonna waive them for us. But that's just my opinion, but I just want the two separated, so we have two discussions on two separate things.
I'll second that motion.
So, Counselor, is that motion this one or separate?
It's a new motion to separate the
Separate the
discussion.
two?
Yes. I know, I'm just,
Staff, you have that motion?
so,
Okay.
Move that all subsidized housing applications be dealt with separately than the nonprofit or development affordable housing projects, to be brought back for a future report.
that sounds
Is
what I
that what
was
you
saying.
meant? Okay. Anybody else that's waiting to speak on the new motion?
Yes.
Okay. Counselor Marion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you to staff. Thank you for the report and very good discussion. One of the questions, two things I'll just highlight. One was I think the importance of having that metric for defining market housing, just to concretely, consider the ultimate, what's put in front of us. And also, I personally would find it helpful in looking at the proposed schedule for tax exemption to have, sort of an illustrated example. So for, this dollar amount project, here's three options of schedule, one at 50%, one at, some other percentage. And, just to, yes, we could do that math ourselves, but, it would be helpful in looking at the example to consider that. So, again, thanks for the report. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor McPhee, to the new motion? Counselor Tennant, to the new motion? Seeing nobody left to speak on the new motion, we'll go to the vote. We're missing one.
He's left the room. So that-
Okay, the motion is passed for those that are here, 11-0. Anything else, Counselor?
Yes, in talking, now that the motions have been split, and it's been passed. I just wanted to see what the appetite was amongst my fellow councilors for what I was talking about before, about ensuring that the waste, policing, and fire, and maybe the educational transfer, we look at keeping those in place for these properties in either situation moving forward, because they are part of the community. And we focus more on the upfront developmental setup costs and permitting fees reduction, as well as the municipal contribution that we could waive, which would be our municipal portion of the taxation. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor McPhee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, just now that we got them split, which I think is a good idea, with the Provincial Housing Agency request, with what's proposed, we'd be just waiving the $1,732, not the $72,582, plus their request doesn't ask for a waive of property taxes afterwards, does it? So
Well,
we're,
no, they didn't, but I think if you had a policy that would cover that, that would be beneficial as well.
well, it would be beneficial to them. I'm sure they wouldn't mind the fact that.
But to be honest, I think they were looking for a reduction in the 72,000, not the 2,000. right?
Yes, exactly. So, seems to me saying, yeah, we'll give you $1,732 over a 72,582. They're not gonna be happy with that, and I can see us losing out on the, building the affordable housing, which is always a hard thing to determine, but when we go back to the original discussion here, they're looking at if you had a $30,000 after-tax income, you would be living in that building, the province owns, for $10,000 a year, and a 20% reduction over, and I did do some looking around here, you're probably looking at still spending $20,000 a year on any comparable. So the two aren't comparable at all. But since the province is willing to pay property taxes farther on, I'd like to see us ensure that this municipality gets this building and waive the total fees. But as we've sort of split things up, we don't actually have a motion for that at all now, do we?
CEO.
Through you, Mr. Chair, John can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the province has already announced that they're building this building in Shubenacadie. So I don't think your policy and how you move forward is going to impact this particular project. What I think we were intending to do with a policy is how do you formulate a policy that encourages future public housing coming to East Hants rather than going somewhere else that does provide some of these exemptions.
Right.
So I don't think you're in fear of losing the Shubenacadie project, but you do need to, if you want to encourage this type of housing development in East Hants overall, having your policy set that the province knows what they're dealing with. And if there is some kind of long-term tax exemption, then I think you're probably more likely to attract those projects.
Okay, so basically as thing stands now, we have to send this back to staff. We can't really deal with the rest of this today then.
Well, at this point, you do have a letter from the province requesting whether you would exempt some of the development charges. We are one of the only municipalities, I think there's probably two others by now, that have development charges that would, the $72,000 charges. I think you would be hard pressed to exempt those. I mean, that is what pays for your capacity in your systems. That's not to say that you can't, and you may want to exempt part of them or all of them or none of them. That's really up to you as a council, how much you want to incentivize the province building homes here. The policy, we do need some direction from council though, because it is your housing strategy, but we need to know how far you want to go with what the policy says. That doesn't address the immediate request from the province through the letter that they submitted to council. That will have to be either just deferred and we can tell them council's working through policy now and whatever the policy says would be retroactive to your request, or you can make a decision sort of next week at council on what that looks like for this particular ask.
Okay, thank you. That's everything.
Thank you, Counselor. Warden Rolston?
Thank you. One question before we go any further in this discussion. Are not provincially owned properties, are they not exempt from taxation and they just pay a grant in lieu instead of paying taxes?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So Jeff might be able to explain this better, but as I understand it, that's true for all provincial properties that are used for provincial business, but private housing is not provincial business. They just provide that service. So those properties do pay property taxes. Got that right? Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good to know then. I don't think we're gonna solve this now. I think we need to have a lot more discussion about it. And, I would be comfortable as long as the province understood that we were working through towards a policy and that they would definitely be included with what we decided. Because I don't know yet if I might be comfortable waiving some of those other fees. I don't know yet. If it was going to bring in another 25, 30, or 40, or 50 developments to East Hants of subsidized housing, yeah, I'd want the ability to look at doing that at least at that time. So I don't think we're gonna answer the question today. So I'm going to move that this be sent back to staff for a further report based on discussions held today with different options, maybe some different options included, and that the province be advised that we are considering their request and we are currently working through policy, and that it would be applied retroactively to their development at the time that it came into effect.
So moved and second. Counselor Musa to the motion? Okay, I'll give you some leeway then.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So for the province, they were asking just to waive the permit fee and stuff like that, right? So,
Well, through Mr. Chair, I think they were intending also the infrastructure charges, which is the biggest part of it.
yeah, so I'm getting there. So for everything that is on a general tax rate, I'm against waiving it because some part of the municipality that don't benefit from this are gonna be paying for it, like education, like waste management fee and policing, like everybody pay for that. And if anything that we should waive, I think infrastructure fees, which the area that benefiting from that can sacrifice that. So I'm okay with that, but anything that's on a general tax rate, I don't think we should be waiving it because the burden is gonna go on the other area of the municipality.
Is that all, Counselor?
That's all.
Thank you. Counselor Rhino to the,
I was before the motion.
I know, go ahead.
Thank you. I tend to agree with Councillor Musa and most of his points. I would, be open to basic fees, but when you get into water infrastructure and sewer infrastructure, 33,300, that's a different battle of wax. I will not support that. And I just want to throw this out there. People are saying we want to encourage provincial public housing. Yes, we do. But then again, I must remind you that it's the flavor of the government that's in power, and it will all come down to politics. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Nobody left wishing to speak. We'll vote on the motion to send this back to staff. And the motion is passed unanimously. Thank you, John. Thank you, committee. That concludes the planning advisor for this morning. We're scheduled for
Let's do the employee recognition first.
okay, we'll
Oh,
go.
that's corporate, we'll go into corporate.
So we'll adjourn and we'll do a break later.
Want to
Go into corporate.
And we'll go into corporate residential with Councillor Garden Cole as chairperson.
And I would suggest maybe a break after we do the employee recognition. Short break. Remind everyone to sign in again in case you haven't seen it on your screen.
Okay, we'll call the Corporate and Residential Services Committee to order. First item of business is looking for any changes to the minutes of March 10th, 2026. Seeing no changes, the minutes are approved. Next item is the employee recognition with the CAO, with the warden. Do you want me to? Pardon?
Okay. Little confusion because I don't have the printed script and I think Tom would likely prefer that I didn't fly by the seat of my pants. Anyway.
Should I read it?
Oh, it's not on the screen. That's good. Okay. April of 2026 marks 25 years of dedicated service for Tom Junak. Tom joined the municipality on April the 2nd, 2001 as our systems network administrator, becoming the first information technology staff member hired by the organization. In 2008, he was appointed manager of information services. And we didn't have a lot of technology back then when Tom came, because I remember. In his role, Tom leads information technology, IT, and information governance across the organization. He oversees IT infrastructure, cybersecurity, data management, and user support, while aligning technology strategy with corporate goals and serving as a strong advocate for innovation and change. Tom's foresight and leadership in systems integration laid the foundation for our ability to work from anywhere. This strength in business continuity was put to the test in March of 2020 when the world shut down due to COVID-19. Thanks to Tom and his team's planning, our technological capabilities far exceeded what we might otherwise have achieved. While many organizations struggled to adapt to remote work, our investment in integration and preparedness allowed staff to transition seamlessly and remain fully connected from day one. Tom has taken on many projects over the years to ensure all of our work sites are well connected. He has managed the council chamber systems replacement project more than once over his 25-year career. Tom has also been a consistent champion of maintaining a strong cybersecurity posture. While he would be the first to caution against sharing too much detail publicly, his commitment to ensuring ongoing investment in both our system and staff training has been invaluable. Thank you, Tom, for 25 years of service and for the critical role you play in enabling our organization to operate effectively in an increasingly digital environment that supports both our staff and the services that we deliver to our residents. And now I will fly by the seat of my pants. And I'll just add that I have always appreciated the ability to reach out to Tom with any question whether large or small, and he has an innate ability to explain the answer to you and get you back online, tell you what you did wrong and not to do again. And he possesses that ability no matter what our own technological experience is. If it's someone who's comfortable working with it, that's great. If it's someone who's not, he can explain it. It doesn't matter the level. And I certainly have appreciated that through the years. So thank you, Tom, and now you have to come up here. I know. I was just thinking that.
Happy to serve the team. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Tom.
Well, should we do Mr. Kane's first?
Just want to say thank you to Tom. No question is ever too small, and a lot of my questions are small, but you're always there with a smile, so thank you.
Let's do the position change first before break, in case he's
Position change?
the next one.
Good luck in the next 25.
Okay, our next item is the position change, and that will be with the CAO.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I wanted to share with council today some very exciting news for our team. Steve Kanes has transitioned from his role in our systems as a technician to the new role of supervisor of drinking water distribution. So this was a new position that council created to ensure that we had that oversight in our distribution system. So Steve's worked with us for over 10 years. He came to us from the Clean Foundation, he's got a Bachelor of Science, and he's got all of his water distribution level 2, water treatment level 2, and his wastewater collection level 1. So he has been sort of the epitome of what you look for in an employee over the last 10 years, seeking that training and getting himself up to speed. And I couldn't be any more thrilled that we've been able to provide a good succession plan into that role and support Steve in his career development, as well as supporting our team with providing them with good leadership. And we welcome Steve to the new role, and we hope that he has a very prosperous career here in East Hants.
Okay, thank you. We are now scheduled for a break. We'll come back at 5 to 11, and we'll continue with corporate and residential services at that time.
2 minutes or less.
Okay, welcome back to Corporate and Residential Services Committee. Next item on our agenda is Cottage Country Development Trail Agreement Amendment with Amy Pine. Go ahead.
Thank you. So through the chair, this report should hopefully be brief. It's regarding an amendment to an existing agreement that we have in place with the Tony Borovsky Memorial Trails Association, which is up in the Cottage Country development up in Mount Uniacke. So everything that we're going to talk about here today just is in alignment with the previous council-approved development agreement and open space agreement. So jumping forward here, going back into the history, in November 2023, council authorized the CAO to enter into a trail agreement with the Trails Association I mentioned earlier. And that was for the maintenance and operation on trails on PID ending 578, which is shown in image 1 here. That agreement was executed in May of 2024. It's for a 10-year term with additional renewal options as well. These trails are open to the public. And the Trails Association wasn't ready at the time, but they are now, and have expressed interest in expanding that trail system onto the other side here. And you can see the PID highlighted on the screen, PID ending in 586. To give you a little bit more context, and I know this is a bit of a messy drawing, but the expanded trails are the ones that are highlighted as the primitive trail on this open space site plan. And it's kind of the red line that you can see going around the green on parcel 2, just to give you some context there. So as staff, we're supportive of this request to expand the trail network up in that community. The Trails Association would continue to handle construction, maintenance, and operations, everything that they currently do on the other side that's existing right now. And the report just outlines some of those kind of key terms of the agreement. Like I said, same terms and conditions, it's just an amendment to that agreement. And public motion I'll bring up on the screen here, which is just to authorize the CAO to enter into an agreement amendment specifically for those trails on PID ending in 586. And again, in accordance with the development agreement and the open space agreement. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay. First to speak is Councillor Musa.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, that group is doing a great job, and I would like to move the recommended motion that the Corporate and Residential Services Committee recommend that council authorize the CAO to enter into an agreement amendment with the Tony Borovsky Memorial Trail Association for the operation and maintenance of trail on PID 453-92586 in accordance with the Cottage Country Development Agreement and Open Space Agreement.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Seeing no one to speak, we'll go to the vote. And the motion has passed unanimously. Okay. Adam, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. As you see the next presenters come up, realize I don't think we've introduced Jonathan to council and committee yet. Jonathan was in the gallery a little bit this morning, just kind of getting to get to know you from a distance. He is in a seasonal role for our policy analyst. He's finished his Master's of Public Administration. He hit the ground running with us in January. He's doing some phenomenal work, quite a few things already in the queue, learning our organization very well, very quickly. And the report that himself and Joe will be presenting are generally speaking, some housekeeping items for municipal grant policy that we've kind of had in the queue. And now that we have the resource, we're just kind of starting to move those things forward for your review. So we'll pass it over to Jonathan.
Okay, and welcome, Jonathan.
All right. Is this all good?
Yep, you're ready to go.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As Adam said, this is a few changes. Most of them are sort of related to each other or related to council motions. So I will run over the major changes here. First, this is the major housekeeping update. We are taking the table of active grants, moving it to the appendix, and we have added a statement that the CEO can update that. It's primarily like the title changes for who is in charge of the policy, or if a grant, in charge of the grant, if a grant gets added or taken off, we can just do that without bringing it back to council and saying this position has had their title changed, so we need to approve a whole amendment. So that's the one major housekeeping change. The rest are minor wording, phrasing, things like that. We've also included a statement about applicants needing to follow appropriate accounting and bookkeeping practices. We have deliberately not prescribed a specific format because what is appropriate for bookkeeping practices will be different for smaller organizations and larger organizations, but this does allow us to have some more risk management. Third, we've added the requirement that a grant proposed on behalf of a group demonstrate organizational support for that application. This follows from Council Motion C-25-313. The other half of it was put into the council procedural policy some time ago, so this is the second half of it. Simply put, if a group is proposing a grant application, they should be able to demonstrate that their organization knows about it and supports that application. And finally, when it comes to nonprofits applying for nonprofit grants, we've added the requirement that they be registered with the Nova Scotia Registry of Joint Stock Companies as a nonprofit. This is more of a very common practice, but the way that's talked about is sort of somewhat inconsistent throughout policies. So we've added that requirement and made it very clear that the NSRJSC is the qualification that we're looking for. So there is more background. I can go into more depth about this, but those are the 4 changes. They're fairly standalone and have no sort of cascading impacts. There are no financial implications.
Okay, thank you for that report. First to speak is Madam Warden.
Oh, thank you. Just one question. Does this include beautification grants? Because I would have a problem with requiring the groups that access beautification money having to be registered with joint stocks.
It will not in general. If they are a nonprofit applying for a specifically nonprofit grant, it would, but I believe beautification, it does not require you to be a nonprofit grant to apply.
Thank you. Having heard that, I will move the recommended motion that Corporate and Residential Services Committee recommends that council gives notice of intent to adopt the amended municipal grant program policy as presented and attached to the April 14th, 2026 Executive Committee agenda.
Moved and seconded. On before the motion, Councillor Perry.
Thank you. Just a housekeeping thing. When you talk about registered with joint stocks is also and currently in good standing, meaning their dues are paid up, is that also in the policy and stated in the policy? They don't have to just be registered, but they have to be currently within good standing within the registry?
Through you, Madam Chair, to the councillor, yes, that's correct. The exact wording is that they must remain in good standing for the duration of the program that they are applying for the grant for.
Perfect, because I've been bitten in the butt by that a few times of people applying for things and I endorse it and then they're not in good standing. So I want to make sure that's taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Next to speak is Councillor Merriam.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you, through to staff. Question that just kind of popped into my mind was if during your presentation was, would there be in the nonprofit category now people receiving grants or entities receiving grants that would be outliers from the policy? So in other words, with the Registry of Joint Stock, they, aren't, registered and perhaps they, this hasn't been an issue and now it is an issue. Could you just provide some color on the outliers and will they be, if there are any, will they be grandfathered? Will the rules apply to everyone? Just for context. Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, to the councillor. There will probably not be any major outliers. This will apply for all future applicants. And the 2 triggers that kind of eliminate outliers are if they're applying as a nonprofit and for a nonprofit grant. So if they're applying for a nonprofit grant, they should be a nonprofit already, and this kind of just clarifies that process. So if they are a nonprofit applying for any other grant, that's still fine. And if they're not a nonprofit applying for a nonprofit grant, it would have been very difficult to meet the requirements put in the actual specific grants. Most of the nonprofit grants already do have this as a qualification. This is more of a housekeeping to put it at the highest level so that anyone thinking about making an application will know right off the bat, if it's a nonprofit grant, they have to be a nonprofit.
Thank you. And out of curiosity, how common is it that the registration status is suspended, for lack of a better word, or just because of non-payment, non-filing? Do you run across that regularly where you're having a conversation, you're not in good standing with them, you have to do that and come back and see us, or is that just a non-issue, generally speaking?
Go ahead, Joe.
Thank you, through the chair. It's a good question because it's really common that groups, especially as volunteers change, that the registered recognized agent kind of falls through the cracks and then they're not getting that. So one of the checks and balances for the majority of the grants that I process would be to double check joint stocks. And if they are in default, I work with the group to get them back. So normally it's never more than a year that they're behind. If groups fall behind a long way, then it's really hard for them to come back because they actually have to pay for every year they've missed, which happens sometimes a group that hasn't been using grants and kind of fallen away. To this point, recently, I helped a group reorganize under a new title so that they weren't opening a 20-year-old defaulted organization. So it is something that we do check. I would say it happens probably once a month that a grant recipient has fallen out. So probably 10% of the time, maybe.
Because it is an annual filing requirement and payment on their part, so it's easy for nonprofits, I would think smaller ones, to do that, for that to happen. Thank you. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Seeing no one left to speak, there's a motion on the floor. We'll go to the vote. And the motion has passed unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
And seeing no other items, that is the end of corporate and residential services. We'll be going into infrastructure and operations with Councillor Perry.
Just remind everybody to sign back in. All right, we're going to call to order the Infrastructure and Operations Committee. Approval of the minutes of March 10th, 2026. Anybody see any errors or omissions they'd like to bring up at this time? Seeing none, we'll consider the minutes approved. First up to speak, and the only one up to speak today, Matt Mahoney on rural bulk water feasibility. Just press your button.
Good morning. So this report's just in response to the motion C-25, 314, rural bulk water feasibility. Just in summary, the summer of 2025 had drought conditions that impacted much of Nova Scotia. Many of the private well users experienced limitations in their regular access to water and demonstrated a increase in the bulk water station use. During the drought, the municipality provided support programs to residents, opening the East Hants Aquatic Center for potable water through the EMO programming. The current bulk water station operated by the East Hants Water Utilities located in Enfield. It's not a central location in East Hants, and a feasibility study to locate a bulk water station in rural East Hants could be completed to determine the potential viability of water sources, respect to volume, quality, and cost considerations, of course. So we just have a map here showing bulk water available in the region, and staff are not recommending that we proceed with the rural bulk water feasibility study at this time.
Thank you. Councilors, you have the report before you. First up to speak, Councilor Rhino.
Well, I'm somewhat disappointed in the fact that, they're not recommending it at this time. But having said that, is there any federal grants or federal programs that would aid in doing a feasibility study for this area that we're aware of?
Through the chair, I'm not aware of any.
So I guess the answer is no. No?
Yeah, none that they're aware of.
Okay. I wonder if we should reach out to our member of parliament and bring this to his attention, that, the cost of this and anything that support he could garner financially would be appreciated.
Would you like to make that a motion, Councilor
I
Rhino?
so move that we reach out to our MP, Cody Blois, and ask him if there's any way that we could partake in any financial aid for the feasibility of a bulk water system.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. On before the motion, Warden Rolston. Oh, sorry, you both were on before the motion. You'll be coming next, Carl, sorry.
Well, I'm prepared to speak to the motion anyway. I'm sorry, but I won't be supporting the motion. If we were to propose such a study, given that the rest of the municipality who have a water utility, they pay for all the studies and everything that are done there. And even if we were successful in getting the federal government to somehow assist with doing a study, we're looking at, probably $120,000 just to do a feasibility study. And you're not gonna have bulk water without a water treatment plant. And you're talking millions there. And I live in the rural area, and I am quite confident in saying that in spite of the difficulties that are encountered with wells and that when we do have drought conditions, that the majority of the residents that I represent are not interested in paying an area rate or anything extra on their taxes, be it municipal, federal, or whatever, to do a study like this. With the knowledge that the cost of providing a treatment plant would be so far out of the reach of the residents of the rural area that I don't see how it would ever be feasible. This municipality does offer assistance to residents for wells and septics for folks who perhaps have problems getting funding from other sources to do that. So as much as it would be certainly a nice thing to have a bulk water distribution place somewhere in the rural area, and even by putting it in the rural area, it's still going to be a distance for many people to travel if it does. And I'm sorry, I wouldn't see it as money well spent no matter who spent it, because it would be doing a feasibility study that I'm pretty sure in my mind anyway, have a pretty good idea that it's just not feasible. Thank you.
Thank you, Warden. Next up, Councilor McPhee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I won't repeat what the warden said, but I thought the same way, that to drill a well is one thing, but to set up a treatment plant so you can have access when you need it is very expensive and probably not doable. I was wondering though, not necessarily as a full-time thing, but I know last year it was quite a few months, there was quite a lineup, people going 24 hours a day. As an overflow, would it be possible that a part-time bulk water system we could put it at the Shubenacadie plant just to relieve the wait times, I guess, and everything, so that people can get their water quicker when they do run out?
I'll bring it over to the CAO.
Through you, and Matt may have wanted to answer this, but I did ask that to the Director of Operations, and Shubenacadie can't sustain the speed and capacity of a bulk water treatment plant.
Oh, okay, good. Very good. Well, that's everything. Thanks.
Thank you, Counselor. Seeing no one left to speak, we have a motion on the floor. We'll go to the vote. Everybody sign back in. Wrong button. Okay, looking for the results. And the motion has passed 7-4 with Counselor McPhee, myself, Counselor Marion, and the warden voting nay. All right, that brings us to the end of infrastructure and operations. I will adjourn and we will reconvene in Parks, Recreation, and Culture with Councilor Rhino. Why won't that turn off? Oh, that's why.
Again? I'd like to call this meeting of Parks, Recreation, and Culture together. First order of business would be the minutes of March 10th, 2026. Is there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, I'll approve them.
We can't speak.
That would be technical Tom.
I can turn mine on.
Can you?
Oh, that button there. Try now.
Tom, we have Eleanor.
Everybody's still good?
Are we good? Counselor Mitchell. Counselor Mitchell.
Yes, we're going back to the question to the INO report, and just wanted to make sure, Councillor Garden Cole, myself, that the recommendation was that little one strip line that we were voting on. And we tried to get in, but we couldn't get in just to make sure. And the line was, it was not being recommended to proceed with the rural Buckwater feeds boost at that time.
No, you voted to ask Cody for money.
The motion was to ask Cody for money.
Okay, you got it?
Who's the?
Okay,
Are we good now, Counselor Mitchell?
are we good?
Not great.
Kim, did you go on there? Oh, good. Okay. First order of business will be a contractual issue, and for an in-camera contractual issue, I would entertain a motion to go to in-camera. Moved by Counselor Tingler, second by Deputy Warden Dixon. All those in favor? Contrary of mine, we'll wait till we're in camera. Thank you. We're back in. I'd just like to report that we met in camera to discuss a contractual issue, and there's no motions or anything coming forward at this time. Right now, I entertain a motion for adjournment to return at 12:30. So moved by Deputy Warden Dixon, seconded by Councillor Mitchell. All those in favor? Contrary of mine, motion's carried. We are adjourned. Can you let us know, please?